Hi, students. This is Mr. Burns. I want to tell you a little bit about Constitution Day. Constitution Day was September 17th, and our Constitution is an amazing document. It lays out the framework for our government, it limits the powers of each branches of a government, and it protects the rights of the citizens, and it starts out with the famous phrase of "We the people." So let's get started and learn a little bit more about our Constitution. All right. Here you see Independence Hall in Philadelphia. We have the world's oldest written constitution, and it was written in the summer of 1787 on a special paper called vellum, which is actually animal skin. It was a radical idea because the founding fathers said that power came from the people and not a king, and so it introduced the world to elected governments. Our Constitution is also adaptable, so it can change with the times. It's only 4 pages long. It was written by 55 delegates, and about half of those delegates were slave owners. And again, I want to repeat that it says power comes from the people, and we call it a living document because it can be amended. So that's the first thing I want you to know about our special Constitution. Hey, the next thing, let's summarize 5 parts of the Constitution. So we have Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3, which lays out the 3 main branches of our government. These branches are called co-equal, so they each have specific powers, and they can block the powers of the other branch if need be. So it's really hard for one branch to become too powerful underneath our system. The next important thing about our Constitution is its Bill of Rights. Now, these were added after the Constitutional Convention, and they're the first 10 amendments, and there are basic rights that we have as American citizens. The last thing I want to point out here is a very important amendment. It's the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment is also very much like the Bill of Rights. It defines citizenship, so it tells who is an American citizen, and it talks about due process of laws. So we are a nation of laws. The laws apply to the people, and government must also follow its own laws. And then lastly, under the 14th Amendment is equal protection of the laws. So equal protection means laws need to be applied equally to all citizens. So, for example, a homeless man and a millionaire billionaire, they have the exact same rights before the law, and they should be treated the same way, equally. So these are 5 important parts of the Constitution. All right, so let's go through some of the founding fathers, and let's call them the founding fathers as superheroes. So let's start with the oldest person there, Ben Franklin. I think Ben Franklin is kind of like Alfred the butler from Batman. So he's wise, he's a counselor, he's funny, he's entertaining. He was able to keep the delegates from getting too angry with each other. So he played a very important role at the Constitutional Convention. He was a very good diplomat. He was brilliant, and Franklin lent respectability to the Constitutional Convention. So he played an important role there. He's probably the second most important person after George Washington. So let's go to our other founding father, Mr. George Washington. So he was probably the most respected man in all the 13 states. And because he was at the Constitutional Convention, people were going to take it seriously also. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention, and he was our great hero from the American Revolution because he helped us successfully become our own country. At the Constitutional Convention, it's kind of being hinted that he is going to play a major role in the new government. So, do I have anything else about George Washington? Yeah, his superhero role. He's kind of like this amazing leader, like Captain America. All right, our final superhero, we're going to call him James, is named James Madison. James Madison was also from Virginia, and if we think about doing your homework and being prepared for a test, James Madison was the best student at the Constitutional Convention. He had studied past governments, and he's coming up with the idea of an elected government where the people are represented by elected officials. So he had studied very hard, and he came up with this idea of a democratically elected government. Madison himself wasn't a good speaker, but he got many of the best debaters to speak for a lot of the ideas that he believed in. So his superhero, I'm going to compare him to like Dr. Strange, because he's this master of what a government should look like. Madison is so important at the Constitutional Convention that we call him the father of the Constitution. All right, if we have superheroes, we also have to have a supervillain. So slavery is the supervillain at the Constitutional Convention. And it was the one problem that the Founding Fathers really failed on. They had compromised on many things, but slavery was something that they weren't able to compromise on. So remember, half the delegates owned slaves. Some of the delegates believed that slavery should go away, and other delegates believed that slavery should be protected. In the end, our Constitution, as it was originally written, really comes down on the side of protecting slavery. Now, one of the really weird things in this document is that the word slavery does not appear in the Constitution. So the Founding Fathers used all kinds of coded language to get around slavery. So the first Constitution, this Constitution here, protects the rights of slave owners. The 3/5 Compromise gave the southern states more representatives in the House of Representatives because some of the slaves were counted. That was called the 3/5 Compromise. There was another part in the Constitution that was called, it wasn't called the Fugitive Slave Law, but that's what it was. It got the Congress into the business of going after runaway slaves. Congress couldn't regulate the importation of slaves from Africa until 1808, and there were other ways. So, for example, the Congress could call out state militias to suppress any kind of insurrection. The only kind of insurrections going on between 1787 and 1861, when the Civil War started, was really slave rebellions. I have a picture there of Charles Pinckney. He was a delegate from South Carolina, and he was a strong defender of slavery, and he got many of these provisions into the Constitution. So, there in 7 minutes is some basic facts about our amazing Constitution. Watch this again if you want to learn more, because I did talk pretty fast.